Calling all beings, y'all. Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Yeah! Welcome back to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ, along with my co-host, Money Nate, also known as NFT Nate. All I know is that he money in the bank. And guess what? We got a new member of the team right here. We got associate producer. Put them hands together for AkashiCris. Yeah! Woo! All right, man. Hit it, brother.
Mm-hmm.
I went to hair and makeup. The only thing is they didn't give me the hair.
Oh, wait, what happened? It went disappeared.
Where's the man?
Oh, is that?
What happened?
It's yes, looking good, looking good. All right, who we got? Who we got?
Ready or not? Party people, let's talk about what we got going on tonight. We're talking about the power couple. We talking about they went from different continents to get together to put together something we call love. Love is in the air, baby. Can you feel what I'm saying, Nathan?
I can, brother. I can.
Love is in the air. They got beautiful hair, beautiful faces. Man, let me get some of that, man. Kick that,
Boom.
brother.
Yes. All right, here we go.
Yeah! Love is in the air.
Bill's hair.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, people. Put your hands together for prime time, prime time, prime time, prime time. The beautiful Artemis and the beautiful Josh from the United Kingdom. Put them hands together. Can I get a hey? Everybody, Nathan, put them hands together. Amen. Yeah, look at her, man. She gotta check this out. Josh, this is what I got. Josh, I don't care what.
Yes.
You know, you look beautiful, Josh. I don't care what she got to say, man. That's the, she looks beautiful too. What is up? Welcome, people.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. It's late in the UK, but your voice, DJ, has perked me up so much. So yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks.
Oh man, that makes me feel good. Artemis, homegirl, we've been waiting to get on air together, and we done did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I know. I feel like I've known you forever, even though we've just met.
I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what. Yeah, fast friends. I'm sorry. Did somebody say Nathan, man?
Yes.
What's up, man?
What's up?
It's Artemis and Josh. Ready or not, here we come.
I thought
AkashiCris.
I can't keep up, man. You had me doing like 4 different
I
cues.
still like the
Oh, yeah.
version.
Thriller, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're very excited to have you guys. Nathan has given me the honor of having the first question
Yes.
for this transcontinental love couple who just it warms me hot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying, Josh? It warms me hot. And so my first question is for Artemis. So now I'm going to get serious.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to do that, let me put my hat on because I want to have hair too.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting serious.
Okay.
Yep.
Now I feel like I'm really part of the group. So
Loving the hair.
all right.
Loving the hair, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Hey DJ,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
hearing there might be some echoing. Do we know who?
Okay.
Deborah? Who's echoing?
Deborah, who's other
Deborah.
Is it me?
Deborah. We're talking about Deborah.
than me? Deborah.
Okay. Keep going
Okay.
until Deborah speaks back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Deborah,
you.
just let us know.
Yes, please, Deb. That's my
Just
homie
posted.
at a study of UFOs and UAPs. Deb is a brilliant researcher with just an Android phone. She's been able to scour the internet and find hundreds and hundreds of documents.
Wow.
check out Deb. Anyway, she'll have her own channel. It's not going to be long. So anyway, so my first question is for Artemis, and I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with this first one, Artemis. And what I thought we would do is to make sort of a little bit of a ground rule just for this question, and this is all, of course, with your concurrence. But I want to ask you what is most important to you regarding this entire topic, but without using the word or the inference transparency, right? Or data, or wait, what's the other one? Or disclosure. So can you tell us what is... Because everyone goes, we need disclosure. What's important to me is that we get disclosure. And it's like, okay, everybody on UFO Twitter agrees on that. Next. So, so Artemis, what really strikes you? Like, to me, like when I hear or read or see TikTok, it really stimulates me from my standpoint. That's not the only thing. There's a lot of other things. But what is very stimulating to you? What aspect?
What aspect of the topic?
Entire the phenomenon. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, I think all of it is pretty fascinating. Sorry,
all right, Josh. I was interested. What kind of mousse are you using? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, I don't use mousse. We actually talked about this before the show. So the only thing I use in my hair is I've got some leave-in conditioner. That's all we use in it, really.
Wow. Okay, so for everybody out there that was going to chime in with that question, it's been answered. Let's move on to Artemis.
Sorry, Flair. I'm sure Flair had it ready. Move on to your next question.
I shampooed a little too hard at the salon.
No, you looked absolutely phenomenal today. I think you wowed all of UFO Twitter. Not the least of which was Josh. So thank you, Artemis.
Well, Josh took all the attention with his hair, and it's a pretty good reason. Look at it. It's pretty nice.
I think your mic's a bit low, Artemis. You can turn your mic up a little bit. I think it's a bit low.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, let's get the volume up a little bit there.
Or bring it closer. So
There's a piper down. That's what it sounds like. We have a piper down.
So Artemis, truly, because I really kind of want to get into, how you got into this. What was it? Were you one of those kids who was looking up at the stars? Did you have a sighting? Was there something that was the sort of beginning for you, the genesis of your love and interest for this topic?
I never had like a sighting or experience as a kid, but I definitely was in the sci-fi topic. I watched like Star Trek with my dad. And we watched like all the classics like Xena, Hercules, like Superman, but the old Superman. Just like all the like old stuff and like the original. So I was always like really into just like that whole idea that like more is out there, and that like whenever I thought of like space and if we're alone, like that was never really a question for me. I always felt like it was obvious that we weren't alone.
What did your father say to you when you were watching these things?
Like now?
No, like back then. What kind of things was he? What were those discussions like?
Well, back then he was just into it, and so was I. And my sister was like, she's 6 years older than me, and she would just call me a nerd. She just wasn't into it. So I was like kind of the one also like stuck like watching this with my dad, but I enjoyed it, so it was kind of a win-win. And then like as I got older, like we got into like Star Wars and like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Like I got into like all of that.
But no theories from your father.
You know what? He's like he's very Greek. So yeah, I come from a Greek background, and so like I don't know. I don't speak to him. Like I don't. yeah, I don't speak to him now, but I would imagine that he definitely believes that there's like more out there. That's probably why he was so into those shows. Like thinking back, like he loved the idea of like space, and he was very philosophical, and like he he enjoyed a lot of that stuff. But yeah, he would more like lecture me on like all the Greek stuff versus space stuff. So that's
Interesting.
just kind of, yeah, it's just the kind of guy he was. But yeah, so he basically did get me into it, but I figured I think one way or another I probably would have either way, because even through high school and like I was really into it, and I wasn't like watching things like with him, but I kind of got more into like movies like E.T. and like Aliens and like just like more of the actual like phenomenon sort of movies and like paranormal movies. So it was always like intriguing to me, but I didn't really get into this until like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and it was more behind the scenes until like June or July. So kind of like emerged onto UFO Twitter and like UCR and Singularity Lab, and yeah, it's just been like a whirlwind. And then I met Josh.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get into that. Love is in the air.
Can't wait, guys. Can't wait.
Everywhere I look around. Nathan got the next question.
Yeah,
from
I mean,
one of
I'm
Josh,
curious. Whose idea was it to do the show, and were both of you sort of into it in the same way, or was one of you a little bit more reluctant to do that?
Well, with me personally, I came online. I think it was like June or July of this year. But like before I came online, I was speaking to Vinny from a Disclosure team. I'm sure you guys.
Vinny!
Absolutely.
You've been on there on his show.
He was here earlier, in fact. He left a comment for us. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So he was like kind of like the big reason why I wanted to come online. He was like, we were speaking like for a few weeks before I actually started my page. And I came online, and since starting my page in July, I've had the idea that I wanted to do a channel, but I didn't really get around to doing it. And it was only when like me and Artemis met, we kind of just wanted to come together to create a channel, together. We thought it'd be good because there isn't really anyone out there who's a couple doing a channel together. So we thought that might be like kind of like a unique angle as well. And it's and the fact that at that time there wasn't really any female co-hosts or hosts really. There wasn't much of that around. So we thought it'd be cool that there would always be a permanent female host there as well, which I thought was really important to have.
Absolutely.
So that's like the main reason why. Well, not the main reason, but one of like the big reasons why we wanted to do the channel was to have a kind of like an inclusive voice, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by you guys. I mean, I
Whoa,
started catching up.
Akashi, that is really loud. Hang on.
Sounds good to me.
I don't know how to turn it down.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was
All
good.
right.
I whisper?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to whisper, although I just project.
No, that's great. You're good. You're good to go. You do your thing.
I'm like Broadway. No, I mean, like watching you guys show, you guys make such a. Am I still too loud? Why are you shaking?
No, you're
your hands
good. No,
at me?
that was
Spirit
jazz
fingers?
hands. Jazz hands.
hands, spirit
Jazz
fingers.
hands.
It was too loud too. I was like,
Don't say jazz. You know what happens.
Dolphins appear across the screen.
Dolphins appear. But and no, I love the chemistry in your show, because it's like you guys are a couple that came together, and obviously you guys are a little bit interested in you have different realms. I mean, you guys cover the gamut of all of it together. You guys got a Greenwald on your first episode?
I know. I can't believe you did that.
What the heck? I was like,
that was
that's
crazy.
so awesome. That is so awesome. So
Yeah, these guys are. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, I kind of want to do that one again at some point in Greenwald, because we were really nervous. That was our first show.
nervous.
And we didn't have like the setup there at all. So we're both really nervous. And So I kind of want to get him on again at some point. So Greenwald, if they see this, we need you again, mate. We need you again for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, these guys are doing us a favor by coming on here because they've already had like some of the biggest guests in the entire thing. So I appreciate it, man.
Guess who's online? Lou is online, guys.
Yeah, Luke,
Yeah, so
Oh,
Lou.
yeah.
I'm new
Get
at the
it.
moderating
Oh,
thing. I'm trying to
hold
find his
up, man.
comments.
It's right here. I got you. I got
There
you.
we go.
I
I'm
got
gonna
you.
get him in here. I'm gonna get him in here.
Lou.
You guys,
he just probably finished his show. Oh no, tonight was Daniel Miller. But he
Right.
was
Daniel Miller, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me get into a little of the weeds here on the show. So, DJ and I obviously were doing the show, and we kind of split some responsibilities. Who's doing the art? Who's doing the guest lining up? Is it a joint effort? Do you guys debrief after each show? Kind of go over what went well, what didn't? How do you approach it?
Well, yeah. In terms of Artemis, she's like really good with like speaking to people behind the scenes, and because she used to work with UCR, she's kind of got a lot of she's got a lot of history in terms of the guests we have on. She's got some history of like Greenwald, for example. She spoke to him before,
Right?
So that was quite easy to arrange. So she's kind of like the main person really with like that side of things. In terms of the posters, I do that on my phone. I've got Canva, like on like the app. So I just use Canva to make those posters.
It's an awesome app. Yeah, I use that too.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
the logo together. Like we do everything joint, but he's definitely in charge of doing the posters and getting those out. And, so we do have like our strong points. I think that we just come together, but we do we discuss everything we go through, like what we can talk about. Like how we think it went, or like, and who else we want to have on for sure. We're like always talking and like looking at accounts and stuff in the background, trying to look at people and figure out like who we want to speak with. So it's fun, and like still like I sometimes think like I can't believe we're doing this. Like
Right.
it's incredible.
that's
It's
what we think.
Yeah, every day.
like
How did this happen?
And like
Yeah.
I just bought like a new camera, and we have like a nice mic setup. Like when
Nice.
Josh comes back, we're all set up at our like little office, and like it's just like damn, it's like it's real, we're doing this, we're actually able to speak on like a topic that we're passionate about, and getting the word out just like everybody else wants to, like, and work towards that same goal.
Wait, no disclosure. We can't say. No
She didn't. She dodged it. She dodged it. The goal, the same
No,
goal.
the inference.
We know what it is.
Yeah, a disclosure, and what was the other one? Transparency. We got
Yeah,
it.
I can't say.
I really want to
We're
know.
playing a drinking game, which we
It
can.
is. Yeah, it is.
I
In fact,
didn't say
I'm
you
gonna.
those, did I?
You didn't. You were good. You're good. He's
I-
trying to trick you. He's trying to. Don't listen to him.
I'm written
You block
down.
him out. He's tricking you.
No, you can't block me out.
That's
All
good.
right, so Josh, my friend,
Yeah.
I would like to get inside of what is important to you. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff lately. I just heard on our mutual friend, Andy. Actually, everybody on the show's mutual friend, Andy, for that matter, spoke about, had John Ramirez on, and they talked about this gene. Help me out, Nathan. So basically, it was like an infusion of genes, or a how did they characterize that?
Hybrid.
Hybridization, or a enhancing of our gene that happened 70,000 years ago. And believe it or not, that was before me. And
Just barely.
yeah, we just made it under the wire. And so we have issues like that. We have issues like the UAS is happening underwater. I'm interested what floats your proverbial boat.
Well, with this talk, like I'm pretty much on like the fence of everything. Like I do know that we've had like the Gillibrand amendment, which is coming out. Well, it's still hasn't come through yet in terms of the vote, but we're hoping that that's going to come through. So there's a lot of things what could happen in terms of the future. So in terms of 2022, there's a lot of potential for that to be a really great year. But until this stuff actually goes through, I'm very much on the fence, because I've been in terms of my research and reading and things. I've been doing it since my teens, really. Like, I'm 33 now.
Wow.
You know, I started doing this when I was like,
Benji, what up, man?
yeah, I started doing this, and well, when like I first started, it was like grade school, so I was like 8 years old.
Wow.
My interest started. I picked up this book from the library. It was just like a picture book, but it was like full of like pictures of UFOs. So that's where like my that's kind of where like it started for me. And in my teens, that's when I started to research it. And you know, in terms of this topic, you get fed down the garden path a lot. You know, and like you think you're on the right track, and you think things moving in the right way, and then the rug gets pulled from under your feet again. So I'm very much on the fence, but I'm hopeful, you know, for the future of this. But you know, I'm still on the fence with it all, if I'm honest. But my leading theory, I don't really have one. I don't really have a leading theory either. There's just so many.
Yeah.
Well, what's the very latest thing where you said like you sort of had a theory, you were following down a path and standing on a rug, and then someone yanked that rug? What's the latest?
The latest one off the top of my head, I'm not sure, just because it would have been a long time ago. Because you know, with like the recent news, like when like the article came out a few years ago in like the New York Times, that's kind of like the next cycle, if that makes sense. So we're still kind of in that cycle now, and it's come to a point with like the Gillibrand Amendment, which hopefully, if that goes through, that could be a big step. But even then, even if that goes through, I mean, I'm still a bit curious as to what we'll actually get to see at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So even if all this goes through, like, what data do we actually get to see? You know, like I do understand that it's going to be important, and we'll get to have these reports potentially, and obviously the oversight from like the amendment. You know, places like the Department of Energy, which haven't, you know, they've been exempt from a lot of all this for like years. So the fact that they're going to have to hand over the things what they have, that's like a big thing for me. So that could really open the door. But again, it's speculation for me because we don't know yet. So I'm kind of on the fence of it all, DJ, if I'm honest, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Nathan, go ahead, brother.
Well, I mean, I resonate with that a lot because there are so many theories, and particularly when we're in a kind of if it feels that we're in a little bit of a valley of information, you know, we're kind of between peaks of releases or whatever. I think there's a temptation to really grasp onto something. It's like, I've got to have something in between these nuggets of truth that we're finding.
Yeah.
And I think we have to kind of resist that temptation and stay grounded and remain on the fence until we know more. I was really interested in the interview that Max Muscovich did with Avi and Chris and Lou. And I'm sure you guys caught that as well. What was your kind of takeaway from that conversation? I had a sort of mixture of feelings about it. Having watched a lot of Avi's interviews, he kind of has the same sort of anecdotes that he likes to use, and he goes back to those things. But you know, Chris, we don't hear from very much at all. So I was really more interested to hear what he had to say, what his body language had to say in that conversation. What were some of y'all's takeaways from that?
Well, it was just great to have those three in like the same show. So that was like, you know, the main thing for me was just to see them three on screen, and you know, in terms of the topic, it was great to see those three together. But I'm with you on that one. You know, there wasn't really any new information for me. It was kind of stuff we already know from like the Galileo project. We already know that Mel and Lou were involved with that. We didn't really get to hear much about what they'll do. We got to hear that they're going to be kind of like advisors, I guess, to whether, you know, to where the project which is great. But you know, it's you know, it's something which I mentioned before. Again, we'll just have to see how that plays out. But it is exciting to see all these names together and working together. But in terms of like the body language and things, that's the kind of stuff I watch as well. It's not so much what they say; it's what they don't say.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's kind of stuff I like to watch out for. but it could be exciting. Yeah, and like you said about Melon, it's very rare to kind of see him on like a show, so that was cool as well.
Yeah, I think Max was in a really tough spot there because you get these three powerhouses together, and then your idea is to take questions, and all the questions are for Avi Loeb. And so Lou is sitting there. He's not answering. Christopher didn't talk for like 15 minutes in a row. That's not a good situation to be in. And I'm sure he's probably thinking, I wish I would have had like 10 questions of my own, like 3 or 4 or so for each person, and then just go around. Because if you're relying on the audience and they want to hear from Avi Loeb because he's extremely expressive, he has a lot to say. And basically it's his project with the other two jumping on. So that was a tough position for Max, but I as you would say, fair play. He got them all on.
He did,
there,
yeah,
so
it was a good job.
That was great.
I thought there was kind of a disconnect in my mind between what Avi is saying about his endeavor and Chris and Lou. It's sort of like they're on opposite sides of the fence in a way. Like Chris and Lou have seen some stuff. Avi is trying to see some stuff. They can't really talk to each other explicitly about what it is that they've seen. So the subtext that I had, and maybe I'm just an optimist here and I'm reading too much into it, was that, Chris is sort of sitting there kind of like, yeah, we need to catch up to this. Like we need Galileo to find something that isn't the provenance of the US government, so we can have because that stuff is going to be locked up for a while. At least it appears to be. So he's like waiting for everybody to catch up to the conversation. That was the takeaway that I had.
No, of course, yeah, and it kind of leads back to what I said before. I'm not sure, because I've heard people mention that Melon's tentatively optimistic that that's going to go through. So that kind of means that he's still a bit on like the fence. So that would make sense for what you're saying there, that he's kind of putting his eggs into the basket of like the Galileo project to find some new information, because like you said there, even if this amendment does go through, what information will like we actually get to see at the end of the day? I'm not even sure.
Well, I want to talk with Artemis about this. I think that, I don't know if you agree with me or not, Artemis. I think this is largely a symbolic gesture between all these parties, because at the end of the day, we're looking through telescopes, right, that are apparently they're going to be in an IR spectrum that is most favorable to capturing the phenomenon. But the military already has these. So I don't know that they're going to get something that's going to make us go, because it's a telescope. It's not a wide angle covering the entirety of the sky. And I mean, if you guys heard that interview with John Ramirez, particularly with Andy, he said, okay, we're never going to, and I think Nathan and I spoke about this when we talked to Chris Lato. You're never getting that data that they have. And I told you that you're not getting that classified data that you can get out of those satellites. And John Ramirez said that. And so that's what you really want. But the telescope, to me, Artemis, I feel like this is a symbolic partnership, but I don't think they're going to produce anything that's going to make people go, oh my God, because we already know the phenomenon's out there. Do you see something different than what I see? Maybe you do.
Well, it might not be that different, but maybe the fact that it's going to be public and not classified. So whatever they're finding, they're sharing it with us. And so that might catch on more than whatever is going on behind the scenes with the government, because we're starting a movement of our own publicly, and they're already involving more universities. So if that keeps going and they get, universities all over the States, and then maybe Canada, and then, expand it even more around the world, like it, I don't know where they plan to take it in the next, like, let's say 10 to 20 years, but like, I don't know if they're looking that far ahead, but they can, maybe it's just because they have that much more opportunity to get that message out and like get these pictures out. And if they do capture things, it's not going to be classified. So
it's all about the funding as well. It's all about the funding. It depends on how much funding they get. I know they've opened it up to public funding. I think on the interview, Avi Loeb mentioned they've raised $2 million, I think it was, he said, which isn't enough. it's nowhere near enough. It's like it's like change really for the stuff they need to do. So
2% of what he wants.
yeah, so it's just so there's a long way to go with it. You know, there's a long way to go for sure.
I think, and I want to get Akashi in here to ask the next question, but I think what stimulates people are two things. There's only two things that people really want to see. You'll hear people scream about data like for a week, and then you realize that if you're receiving raw data, you don't even know how to analyze that data. What you do know how to analyze is if you're seeing something that is either an image or a video. And in the absence of that, I think whatever they produced in with these sensors, if they're able to capture even data with AI that says, oh, that is anomalous, that 100% is anomalous, but we don't have a clear image of what that is, I don't think people are going to be compelled by that. But again, I think symbolically speaking, when you have a GS-15 from the Pentagon, and then Christopher Mellon, I think he was on like a different scale as an undersecretary. I don't even know what those guys are making as a U.S. DI. But the symbology of those two partnering with this scientist makes the government have to say, oh, Lou and Chris are putting pressure on us again. If they're not in San Marino putting pressure on us, then they're partnering with this Harvard guy and they're putting pressure on us. And that, to me, is significant. Yeah. So, AkashiCris, associate producer. What's up?
Well, I actually have a comment because I'm obsessed with that interview that we did with Christina Gomez, right? This like 3 weeks ago, whatever, when he kept saying that all you needed, and I keep honing in on that, all you need is one pointing at the right place. So is that one the Webb telescope, and where is the Webb telescope supposed to be pointing initially? Because he specifically said those two pieces. All you need is one pointing at the right place. So that would mean to me, and this is just AkashiCris talking.
Yeah.
Crazy, but I just start reading into it. I mean, we all do. It's just, the nature of the beast. We want to read more into it and try to put the puzzle together. But those two things, and remember, he always says he leaves breadcrumbs. He used to, and he stopped. So I'm like all about going back and trying to find those breadcrumbs along the way.
It's actually good because it's high in carbohydrates, Josh, right?
Exactly.
And plus, the Beatles said all you need is love. So what's more significant about what Avi Loeb said than the Beatles?
Avi Loeb gave us like.
Yeah, I mean,
Avi is my Beatle right now, but
that's Pete Best. He's the fifth Beatle.
I thought it goes impressive. But I do want to hear from. Yeah, I do have a question for Josh. Only because you're in the UK, and I think you were talking about the fact that it's incredible to me when you say that. It's like we're so far ahead in the conversation. I'm like, okay, we're so far behind. And I talk to my friends all the time, and my friends said, don't you want to know that this is a thing? They have no interest. So I was just wondering what challenges you're bumping into over there. Is it more skeptical, at a public level, or is it just more skeptical and more controlled at a government? So just a little bit of insight would be great.
Sure, yeah. Well, in terms of that, it's just like a blank page. Like there's just nothing at all. You don't see it in any media. You don't see it in any news channels. You see it in the odd paper. Here and there. I know that Vinny, Disclosure Team, I know he's working with UAP Media UK. They've actually got a pretty good relationship with the newspaper The Sun. So if you've noticed over the past few weeks, they've actually brought out a couple of articles in The Sun. So that's kind of like a good change. But but at the end of the day, it's no disrespect to The Sun, but that's like a tabloid newspaper. So like the average person in the UK, if they pick up that paper, they're not going to take it seriously at all. It like in terms of the information in the article, that's great. But when someone goes into a shop or walks to the news agents to pick up a newspaper, and they pick up The Sun and see a story about a UFO in there, they're not going to take it seriously, even if the information's correct, if that makes sense. So we need to see this talked about in a more not in a more serious way, but we need to get this information into kind of like in terms of the papers like the Telegraph or like the Guardian, those are like the serious ones here. So to see it talked about there, that would be really interesting. That actually happened when like the UFO report came out in June. There was a brief period for about a week where we kind of got to see some stories in those papers, and it was briefly talked about in like the House of Lords, which is the first time it's ever happened to, and that I think, it's on Twitter somewhere. I think at the Signal he posted about it. So if you go through his tweets, he'll still be there. But just to see that topic discussed in the House of Lords was crazy to see. But since then, it's kind of just went completely quiet, But speaking to Vinny, because like we text each other and stuff, he's very hopeful that, if this amendment does go through, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the UK to kind of follow suit, and they'll have to say, they'll have to address it in some way, So we're hoping that will happen going forward, but again, it's just a waiting game, Akashi. So we'll see.
Go ahead, my dear.
No,
please.
go ahead. No. You go.
I was going to say that I sort of posed this with Andy on text message, that I think it would be really cool if there was like a regional person in each area of the UK. Like if you had like Northumberland, a person, and then you had someone in the Midlands, and then someone out in Wales like Dan, and somebody in the South like Stevie Keith. Hi, Stevie Keith. Anyway, but what I'm getting at, though, is if you had these regional people that you could organize and have meetings. So if you have these meetings and then you just kind of build out those meetings from there, because of the size of the UK, makes that easier than for Artemis. I mean, it's like for her to go across the span of Canada is pretty, it's a pretty good trek. But I still think you should do it. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
More like Ontario or like going downtown Toronto.
Do you have an idea like that? Like, have you thought about that, Artemis, to do regional meetups for the purposes of motivating?
Yeah, me and Josh have talked about it. Once he's back here, like we've got loads of plans, and like people we're gonna enlist, and like people around here that we want to speak with, and we're gonna be doing stuff with Video Girl Kelly.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, Kelly Dodge,
Kelly
put
Dodge.
your hands together for Kelly Lee Dodge. What's up, Kelly Lee?
Yeah, we miss her. So yeah, we're gonna we have plans like to do stuff with her too. So, I think it's about building that community that we talk about that's virtual. Like, I mean, it's great virtual, of course, and it connects us, around the globe, but
in person.
Thing about that connection in person, and to also just like when Kelly came over, it was one other person with Josh and I, but having that conversation just openly with the people in the room, and like it being like engaging, and like just like, hey, did you see that report though? Oh, but did you see that YouTube live? Or like, and like just knowing what we're like, you're just around your own people, and so
it's the start. It's the start. You got to start somewhere. That's a start.
Amazing that we were like, this definitely needs to happen in person, like on a grander scale, and like we need to make a bigger impact. Like we need to make it like do like a live stream for like a whole week or something, and like advocate on the topic, and like doing things and creating a goal, and like I don't know, like just making a bigger impact on a bigger scale. It's more work, but at the same time, you're creating that community that's not just like, you're not just getting like a quick like or share or whatever.
Right. It's real conversation.
You're building a foundation, and like you're making like a lasting change, and also like people love that, and people need that, like that connection, that feeling that they're not alone in this, that experiencers could come out with this, or even just broadening your own like perception of the topic, kind of taking out that tunnel vision and speaking with other people who have different takes on the topic, if they're more nuts and bolts or woo woo, whatever you want to call it, like bringing these people together and just broadening everybody's perspective and feeding off each other's energy. Like that's what it's all about.
Artemis, if you have a meeting and you, Josh, and Kelly have a meeting and 5 people show up, the next time you meet, you're gonna have 10.
Exactly.
It's just,
yeah.
I mean,
build.
And then for you, I'm just want to say for Josh, for you have a meeting and you get 10 people to write into your MP. That means something.
It does, yeah. I mean, to have like, I think it was Ross Coulthard. I think he made a great point saying it's always better to handwrite something because it's gonna get noticed and highlighted a lot more. So instead of like doing a tweet, for example, you know.
Yes, Grant. Grant says the Big Phone Home UK edition. That's right.
Big Phone Home UK edition is a great idea.
It's a great idea.
But yeah, in terms of that, in terms of contacting your MPs, it's always better to do it with like a letter and not a tweet, for example, because it's going to get paid like attention a lot more if like you do that. It's shown that someone's actually taken the time to write that letter and go down and post it. It's got like a powerful like the message behind it is a lot more, if that makes sense, you know.
Hey Josh, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
When I hear the name Ross Coulthard, and Nathan knows what's about to happen.
I do.
I envision the voice of Sean Bean in what's that movie? National Treasure.
Yeah.
And I envision Sean Bean saying, "Ross Coulthard, you either help us steal the Declaration, and we'll send you back to Australia in a body bag." But I feel like you would do that a lot better. Can you be Sean Bean? Can you channel your inner Sean Bean for this show?
I'm crap with accents. I'm really crap with accents. So
you can't. All you got to do is lower your voice. It's Sean Bean. He has never raised his voice in a movie.
I can't. I'm not going to do it. These
he'll work on it in the off time. We'll bring him back. He'll be
I mean, hey, it's a process, man. It's a process. It's like disclosure.
You did it. Yeah, you did it to yourself. Well, I want to get y'all's thoughts on the issue of kind of the truth with a capital T. You know, so and I don't necessarily want to go down our speculative paths here, but I want to talk a little bit about where does it need to come from. You know, so I'm thinking back to Lou's talk with Vinny, in fact, about the 5 pillars.
Vincenzo,
the 5 pillars presentation that he did, and when you look at that presentation, you realize how important the coordinated effort really is, and it's all of these different pathways and avenues of engagement, and kind of they have to, as he talks about it, they have to sort of happen in parallel. So there's not necessarily maybe one group, one pillar that has the monopoly on this story, but I would argue that maybe a couple of them are more important than the others. And this speaks to sort of our role in the UFO Twitter community, the role of the media at large, the role of governments, the role of experiencers, and all of these are sort of mouthpieces for whatever that this happens to be. In your minds, what is it that will be the most significant sort of turning point or voice that will think of it as a conductor in an orchestra? You know, when that conductor is up there, we're all going to start kind of playing along in the same tune, or more likely playing along in the same tune. Who would be that person in those groups that Liz talked about in your minds?
Artemis, do you want to go first? Or?
No.
I mean, basically, who?
I'll give you my answer. I think it has to be the government, personally. But I don't know, and there are a lot of us that are going
to. I think for the general public to accept it would have to be the government for sure. You know, for like the average person who's kind of not really involved with this,
they need an official,
right?
Yeah, you need someone official to kind of come out and talk about it for sure to get people on board in terms of the general public. But I was watching the show with Artemis. I saw a tiny bit of it the other day, and they had the one time I was abducted who were on there. The girls who are in the chat now, I think. And they made a great point because, you know, a disclosure is kind of up to each person. It's what you will want it to be. You know, so for like the experiences, for example, like they've already had that experience. They already know that this is real. So they don't need like the validation from like the government or some official to come out and say that this is real. They already know that.
Right.
And that's such a huge part of this topic, what people kind of forget as well. You know, this side of these people who've had these experiences. Like I haven't had one myself, but I can really relate to them and their kind of take on this topic, you know, to have, you know, to have all these government people talk about this. It must be kind of frustrating for them in a way, because these guys already know it's real. They've like experienced something, you know, so they've already kind of had their moment, if that makes sense, you know. But in terms of the general public, it would need some sort of official to come out and say that this is real, you know, and even then it's happened, you know, and this is what people forget. Like the Pentagon have already come out and said that UFOs are real. So in a way, they've kind of done it. You know, there's not a lot more that they need to say. They've already said all they need to say in terms of the UFO topic, if that makes sense. So this is why I'm kind of cautious going forward as to what we're actually going to get to see with all of this, you know. But this is
even if the government, even if the government comes out, will they believe it?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we've seen crazier things, right? It's like, will they really believe that? You know?
Yeah, I mean, in the terms of COVID, I mean, look at that huge divide of COVID. I mean, some people don't believe there's a virus. Some people don't think it's that serious, and other people are very much on board and they'll wear the full protective gear and the face masks and, you know, have 10 jabs or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So it's there's like a mixed bag when it comes to the government and how people actually see the government and what they're actually saying. So
well, based on history of misinformation on the UFO topic, how are they going to say that this one's real but that wasn't?
I want to address this though from two angles. One angle, I spoke with Max the other night from the UK, and Max had an amazing experience. It was on a Spaces with this young lady named Angel, and I think some of you will meet Angel, will know about Angel because people seem to connect with her voice on there. And this Max was such a gentleman and had an incredibly compelling story, like blew me away kind of story. And I said to him at the end, he was ready to go to Israel and track down a couple who had filmed a UAP experience that looked like a oblong cylindrical vertical object that came over his house that was like the size of a school bus. And this, let's say the characteristics of the flight characteristics of this particular object looked like what he saw. And he said, I want to go get them to back me up. And I said, you know something? And I don't curse a lot on air. Nathan can tell you that. And at the end, I said, Max, repeat after me. I don't have to prove shit to anybody. I don't have to prove shit to anybody. Exactly. If somebody says, I want scientific proof or kick rocks, fucking kick rocks. I don't give a shit whether you believe it or not. I don't give a shit whether Mixed West believes it or not. So we don't have to prove anything to anybody. Exactly. You only have to prove it to you is the only person you have to satisfy. Unfortunately, the government is a de facto authority on this, and people are going to, because when the world exploded, when they released the 3 videos, and now we have 50 YouTube channels, including this one, that wouldn't exist were it not for those 3 videos. That's a fact. That's not a guesswork. And Lou Elizondo and those guys were all part of that. But that doesn't mean they own the entirety of the narrative, because people like Max, people like yourselves, even people like Nathan, he's like money in the bank. That's why I call him Money Nate. NFT Nathan, man. Put it in the bank, baby. Because when he talking, people listening. Ha! And AkashiCris. So nobody like owns it. But yeah, if we were having slices of pizza, Josh, I would say that's the big one that had the most meatballs on it. And like you left me the sliver. So I'm just
I mean, it's weird. Like
Artemis, come on, pizza. Come on, Artemis.
I'm like, meatballs on pizza?
Okay, no
Who
meatballs.
does that?
We could do without that. Canadian bacon. Is that better? Okay. Okay.
Hey, we've had somebody in the
that's right. In the waiting room.
Yeah. Should we bring the flare in
Yeah.
with the
Bring that flare up in this joint.
The flare.
Stephen Greer's flare. Woo!
Were you ready, Flare? Flare, come
He
back
about
to
to
screen,
cut somebody
Flare.
up.
Yeah, he's got quite a collection there.
Flare, always to his weapons, Flare.
Like a hunting room.
Yeah, it's like you
Or
know,
his salon.
if Akashi is a baby Yoda for Grant, then maybe Flair is her baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda, yeah.
I
what
don't know. He may have
happened,
stepped
Flare?
away. I
Okay,
know he's there, but he's not quite there.
He'll be back. So
Yes.
when he pops back up, we'll just squeeze him in. I don't know what happened.
Yep.
All right.
But
Okay.
I think we're kind of talking about an important aspect of this, though, that it kind of the disclosure of the information is somewhat proportionate to the way in which the phenomenon is really going to engage with the world on a larger scale. So if the phenomenon is going to continue just sort of showing up for the Navy and causing experiencers to have the things that they have, I worry that a disclosed, I use the word, sorry, but a truth from the government, how much weight it will carry if the average person in the world is not really directly affected by this in some form or fashion. So it's one, because let's be honest, a lot of folks in the world believe in some pretty, fantastical things. I mean, most of the world's religions have some aspects of the phenomenon represented in them already. It's just that we've normalized them and called them religion, and that's become more acceptable. So, in my mind, there will come a time where the government or whoever is going to sort of try to rally folks together. Maybe we're seeing this with the Astro, with if we get this bill passed with the creation of Astro, the anomaly surveillance tracking resolution office, which I had to look up just a second ago. But I see that as kind of like the central node with a lot of these players. So if you really wanted to get this accepted on a wider scale, what you would try to do is kind of create that body where you're bringing in people from Galileo, you're bringing in skeptics like Michael Shermer, you're bringing in all of these different personalities, and you're going to, I would hope, kind of expose them together as a group, some of these findings. Then those people who have their own tribes of people who follow them, that will be listened to. If you can convince Michael Shermer, you're more likely to convince a Mick West and yada yada and down the line.
Sure, yeah.
We're going to need that kind of coalition, if you will, if we're going to all arrive at the same place. Definitely. But it's going to be weird if we get there and the phenomenon is not actually waiting for us. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, we know that you're real, but hey, how do we actually interact with this?
I mean, here's like a hypothetical question for you guys. What if it turns out that Lou Elizondo isn't who he says he is? I mean, how would you guys react to that?
It can't, because he's already been checked out. But I've already talked to somebody in government who's checked him out and has talked to him. Right. So he is who he says he is.
Not necessarily that part, but like that he's hiding something, or that something about him is like. He's
definitely hiding something. He's trying to keep himself out of jail.
Because that's like the narrative. That's like the other side of this story. What a lot of people look at as well. We touched on it before about like the government and things, and the mistruths what we've been fed for 80 years.
100%. 100%.
It's difficult for people to kind of make that leap.
Well, Josh, you have to though. We're living in shades of gray. If everybody from the government is a liar and they're bad, and everybody who's on UFO Twitter who's a conspiracy theorist is good, then what is that big gray space in the middle?
No, of course. Yeah. It's a hypothetical question, but yeah.
Right, but let's look at what's de facto in that. He gave up his job, so therefore his 20-year retirement's gone. Okay? Then so he's got, if he gets a retirement, it's going to be a far reduced from what the percentage he would have gotten at 20 years as a GS-15 at step 10. So he'd still be employed right now, actually banking, adding to his percentage. So he's done all that. He's went out in the wilderness. He's filed 2 IG investigations against the people he worked for.
No, for sure, yeah.
And hired a lawyer. So and people are like, hey, I wonder if Lou's ever going to work in the Pentagon again. I was like, I can answer that. No, he's not. He'd be the last person that a contracting officer would hire to be a contractor or a GS employee back at the Pentagon.
Right.
So we hold on a second. So we have all that, And the guy has gone overseas. He's moved these senators. He and Christopher Mellon got the videos released. This bill would not be happening right now without them. The House resolution wouldn't have happened, nor would the Senate. So there's no question. You can say, I don't like him. I don't trust him. I'm never going to believe him. You could say anything bad about him you want, but you can't say he hasn't done anything because that's just not a fact.
No, in terms of Lou Elizondo, I mean, I'm skeptical of every single person in this topic because of what's happened, including Lou. And I'll question everybody. We had a discussion with Daniel Stubbings, who is he's like a mental health doctor on our show. That was like a couple of weeks ago, but he made the point on there from what he's observed. He's like, who's actually come up with this decision to bring this information out in this way?
Right.
Like, why have they got that power to bring this information out in this way? Like, I'm not trying to say that Lou's a liar. I'm just trying to say that why is it being brought out in this way, if that makes sense?
Well, right. I mean, let's take a step back. Let's go back to the days of Tom DeLonge. Let's listen to what Tom actually said. He said that he had spoken with advisors who basically had organized a team to help him push this information out. Now, who was on that team? Oh, Chris Mellon. Oh, Lou Elizondo. So you can't tell me that Chris and Lou just all of a sudden rolled out of bed one day and were like, I'm just going to do this. We're just going to go for it. I think that they have their own convictions. I think that they are men of conviction. They serve their country honorably, and they are trying to do in their minds what they think is best. But I do think, and I'm just saying, if you just listen to what they're telling us, if you listen to what they're telling us and you read a little bit between the lines there is a clear, coordinated effort. Lou is just on the front end of this. Chris is on the front end of this, and he says that all the time. And just recently said, there's all these people that hopefully their names will come out, soon, who are big names, people that you know of. So this is a group of folks who are trying to push this in a specific direction. And I think that for Lou's sake, he actually wants, the more people he can bring into this conversation, the more relieved he becomes, because then it takes some of this risk that you're illustrating, Josh, about, what happens if, people don't believe him or whatever. It actually mitigates that risk when more people have exposure to what is really happening.
Of course, yeah.
And does anyone remember what the seminal moment was for Lou when he just made this decision? The seminal moment was when he said, I want to brief the SecDef, which was James Mattis. And he was told by his boss, you will not brief the SecDef because we want SecDef to have plausible deniability on this issue in case somebody asks him about it. And when he said, if you're not going to let me brief the boss, I'm out of here. And remember who his resignation letter went to? The SecDef. Which was James Mattis. So he said, okay, if you're not going to tell them anything and we're overclassifying everything, which they are, then I don't need to be involved in this because we're keeping too much from the American people, and I'm not down with that. And that takes an amount of courage that this person here doesn't have. If I would have been in his position, I would not have done what he did. I wouldn't have given up my career and my and make when I had to take care of my family. That guy, I have no kids. I got 5 pets running around the house. This guy had 2 kids going to college and did that. That's conviction. So when you say when someone goes, I don't trust that guy, what has he done? Well, I can just start naming things off and you're just going to, you don't have to like the guy. You could say, I think he's a liar. I don't believe him. I don't like him. But you can't say he hasn't done anything.
Sure. In terms of my opinion on Lou, I'm on the fence of him. I'm not there or here. I'm just on the fence.
Yeah, that's your choice.
Because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't have a clue. So I can only go on what he's told us. And what I hope will happen. Like I hope this amendment will go through. I hope everything will turn out to be this path of a disclosure. What Mellon and Lou have laid out. I hope that turns out to be the case. Like I really do. But until that happens officially, I'm not going to be fully on board. You know what I mean? I'm always going to be.
You don't need to be.
Of it, if that makes sense.
You don't need to be. Yeah. Like I said, nobody needs to prove shit to anybody. Lou doesn't have to have anything to prove to you. Or me, for that matter. And you don't have to prove anything to Lou. But what I will tell you is this. I've signed one of those agreements like what he signed, okay? And what would happen if I violated that agreement? is that's going to go up in front of the bosses. The intel guys are going to bring that up and say, this is what the violation was. And depending upon how they feel about me, could depend on how hard they push this, and it gets walked over to the judge advocate general, and now you have a case against you. Lou is walking this line because how bad does anyone on this panel, out of 1 to 10, what do you think Susan Goff would want to prosecute Lou? Watch him do a perp walk in an orange jumpsuit. So you say, see, I told you all along, he wasn't what he said he was.
Of course, yeah. I mean, she'd love to do that, of course.
So that's what he's up against. And anybody that would suggest that this guy should give one piece of information that could send him to jail is a coward, in my book.
I mean,
unless you're willing to go to jail, and you're still a coward because you're not him.
But in terms of that, I mean, it's difficult because I touched on it before. Like, it's different from, like, in terms of the US. You guys are the only ones who are talking about this, I promise. Like, in terms of the UK, nobody's talking about it. And we're kind of like an ally of yours. And it's the same with Australia. They had, I think the House of Parliament in Australia was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They had like a discussion there, and they basically said that there's nothing to investigate effectively. So it's weird to me how it's only the US who is talking about this. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all.
Well, that's why they're not
behind it. I don't know the reason behind it.
Well, imagine that
like step out of America, no one else is really talking about it. So it's weird to me. It's a bit strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Well, I want to switch gears real quick to ask Artemis a question about. I know one of the aspects of y'all's channel is kind of focusing a little bit on the mental health component, and I find that so amazing and important. You know, it's particularly with this topic. You know, what are the things that if you were to counsel somebody who just said, "Hey, I'm into UFOs. I'm going to start getting into UFO Twitter tomorrow." You know, what are some kind of advice you would give them if they were going to jump in headfirst into the deep end? How would you help them kind of navigate all of these different theories and speculations? And how do you advocate for kind of staying grounded in the midst of all this crazy stuff?
Well, to jump on UFO Twitter, I would say you definitely have to be cautious of UFO Twitter and not get involved in like the petty drama and just stick to the because there are a lot of good things that are on UFO Twitter. So just stick to like the articles that you find, and like when you meet an interesting person on there, just gravitate towards that. For the mental health side of it, when you are like you're taking in a lot of information, and I would say that keeping an open mind is really important because we don't have all the answers, so we don't know. We can't rule anything out, really. And we should go to keep an open mind with that, and also not to overwhelm yourself. Like when you are just beginning in the topic, it can get overwhelming, and like you really do start to see the world in a different way, and you really start to think about this stuff like a lot, and like you have to like remember that there is like a whole other world outside of UFOs, whether we want to admit that or not.
Right.
So it is important to kind of ease yourself into it anyway, and to trust also your intuition. Like if you think, like when you're listening to somebody, if you're getting like a bad feeling of some kind, or if you're not, like jiving with like whatever that person's saying, then like that's okay, but to stay respectful and just to stay around like what you're gravitating towards, and positivity out there, because we need more of that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think I guess you kind of have to be a little bit Zen-like, so regardless of what really happens, you sort of have to let it kind of flow past you. I had a great chat.
Especially
it's so hard.
Into this. Like, I mean, we always have that intention. So even if we tell people just to like stay zen or just to like back out, it's also, if you think of yourself, like it's also easy to kind of stay sucked in or be like, okay, and like stay off of it for like like half an hour and then be like, and like kind of Twitter. You're
Need
just
my
like, I'm gonna
fix.
take a break, and you really don't. So,
Yeah.
I think to actually do that is really important. And I mean, we all get burned out. Like me and Josh have both felt it in the last like
Oh
week.
yeah, definitely.
And I mean, it happens to the best of us, especially the more involved you are in the topic. It is tiring and just like mentally, and like, you know, it's a lot of information that's always out there, and like we want to know more about what's happening around the world that they're not either able to talk about or that they don't want to talk about. Like there's just such an overflow of information and like just what is going on out there that it gets overwhelming for sure. But
Definitely.
I think there's fear of the unknown too, Artemis. I think because
Sure.
we
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen. We don't know why there are craft flying around. And for many of our friends that are on UFO Twitter that we love, they're extremely fearful of not knowing what that is. So if I could say, well, that is certainly a Russian craft, that is certainly a Chinese craft, that's certainly U.S. tech, then I can contextualize it. I can put it in a box. We love boxes, right, Josh? We got our containers here. We're building the sidewalls on the top. And when we don't know, it's really scary. And that's actually going to take us into the next topic that I want to ask everybody on the panel about is what contact looks like. But I think that is the source of fear for a lot of people when they read that, oh, then in 2019, the Navy had this incident and gee, we didn't know about it. And why are they keep turning up in the Navy's training areas? And what do they want? What are they going to do to us? So do you guys want to talk about contact now?
I do.
Contact, Josh, contact.
So do you mean like what contact would mean to me, or how do I think that it's going to happen? Or?
Yes. Like, does your mind's eye picture it? And if it does so, let's go around and we could go Josh and Artemis, Nate, and Akashi. What do you think that would look like?
It's a difficult question. I mean, it could happen like a number of different ways. And it depends on what like the intentions are of these beings or whatever you want to call them. You know, what their intentions are. But if like you believe the UFO topic, they've kind of already made that, you know, have already been doing that for thousands of years. You know, you can go back to, you know, for a long time, and they've been making contact. You know, you touched on it at the start of the show about the gene manipulation and stuff, you know. If that's true, I'm not sure if it is, but if that's true, then that just proves that they've been here for a very, very long time. And that contact's already made. So, and if that theory is true, you know, what John Ramirez is saying there, that would mean that they've basically influenced our, you know.
But today, I'm saying today.
Oh, today.
Yeah, not 70, because we can't. I'm saying today you're at the chip shop and you decide that you're not going to get cod today because, you know, it's fried. You ask if they have anything steamed. They tell you, no, get out. We don't have anything steamed. It's only fried. And you go outside and then all of a sudden there's a craft hovering.
Yeah. I mean, for the average person, they'd probably be scared, if I'm honest. Something that they don't, you know, they've got no reference to make sense of it, you know. So, you know, a lot of it would be fear, I guess. You know, you guys touched on there. If you go back through history, humans, we always kind of fear the things we don't understand. So for the general public, I guess there would be a lot of fear. For people in the UFO world, we probably see it circulating around on UFO Twitter. There'd be a video. We probably think it was amazing, you know. But for the general public who aren't really aware of what's going on in terms of this topic and like the history and what's happened, it would be scary for sure.
Artemis.
Well, I was gonna say that where like people wouldn't understand, we wouldn't understand, but because we've been conditioned in like TV and movies and all of like and books and podcasts and all this stuff, like we've already, like our brains would be able to recognize at least what it is. I think we would have fear, but also a lot of curiosity and maybe like also like skepticism as to like if they're actually seeing something out of this world or if they're seeing like some movie set. Like and like I think people would be confused as well, and maybe some people would be kind of excited thinking like, oh cool, like what is this, until they realize like that it's alien. And they're like, wait, those costumes are like really good. You know? They're like, how did they make that? No, but yeah, I think that we'll probably, a lot of people will react different ways, but I think some people will actually, like, it might surprise us how much we've already been conditioned and maybe aren't even aware of that. Like how much we are conditioned until we've seen it in real life. And then we're like, oh, this actually doesn't seem so insane right now. Why? That's because, you know, what's been on TV the last like 60, 70, I don't even know how many years now. So I think it's going to be a lot more mixed than we think. And because so many people actually are more open-minded these days, like I think there was like a percentage like of the states, like it was over 50% of the states that believe that aliens could exist or something. So, I mean, there's probably a lot more people that weren't, I don't know what they voted with to determine how many people believe in it, but I'm sure there's a lot more people than just that percentage as well that probably, you know, wouldn't be surprised if there was somebody out there, like maybe not believing that we've already been visited, but the possibility of life, I'm sure a lot of people would agree that that's possible. So yeah, for just like, no, I don't want to say that word, for
no, it's just a matter of, it's a visceral reaction.
I was like, oh no.
No, it's all good. You know, that was a joke from the beginning of the show. It's a visceral reaction, though. You see something, and what is, you know, that's all. That's what I was asking, Nathan.
I definitely think there'll be some fear, but I think it'll surprise us how much maybe that even that initial fear reaction might go away and curiosity.
Hold on one second. I'm hearing a loud background noise. Who's that coming from? Can everybody? Okay, go ahead, Nathan. Or Artemis. I was hearing this like loud.
Too, but finish your thought.
Yeah.
I hope it's not me.
No, I'm not hearing it now, so we're good. Go ahead, Money Artemis or Money Nate, whoever's up.
I want you to finish your thought if you. I blame DJ. I blame DJ. It's his fault.
It's my fault.
No, it's all good, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think of this. I think the way you framed it, DJ, was really appropriate. You know, sort of the box analogy. It's sort of what is wrapped up in this moment for you. You know, and this is going to be different for every person, right? Think of what's wrapped up in that moment for an experiencer. Think of what's wrapped up in that moment for someone that is a traditional religious person. You know, think of what's wrapped up in that moment for someone who's in UFO Twitter, you know, who hasn't had a direct experience. So, you know, we're all kind of going to be laying on top of the phenomenon our own sort of issues or preconceptions or whatever it is. And I think it's important that we actually think through whatever the lens you're viewing this from now, and viewing viewing reality as you know it, whatever lens that happens to be, it's important to examine that and understand that, because regardless of what actually comes out, you know, we still got to deal with that lens. That lens isn't going anywhere, you know, so we need to hold that, examine it, and be ready to kind of shatter it, if you will, whenever this moment comes, and give up our biases or our preconceptions and be open to whatever this might be. I think it will be a very mixed picture. You know, to Josh, to your point, I think there will be a lot of fear. There will be a lot of you know, sort of divisiveness in the world. The more that we can have the world on the same page, at least the world's governments on the same page, the better that this will go. But there will absolutely be people who aren't going to hear anything that any official outlet tells them, you know.
And that's what concerns me as well. Like I touched on it before, how, you know, in the UK, for example, nobody's talking about it. You know, it's you know, the average person doesn't have a clue who Lua Elizondo is. We don't have a clue. Exactly. You know, we don't have a clue who who these guys are, you know. But if you go into America, he's on Fox News, he's on CNN, you know. In like the UK, no one would know who the hell he is. So it's like it's weird. And I'm looking at it from like the UK perspective here. You know, if like a craft did come down in the UK, there would be fear because it hasn't been talked about whatsoever, you know. So to have something like that, you know, land in, you know, in London, in central London or something, for example, a huge craft, would be a lot of fear, 100%. Yeah.
Nathan, like for you, let's say you walk out of Chick-fil-A, you got your wife, your kids there.
Yeah.
You decided to get the grilled chicken and no mayo packets, while your kids actually got the super meal that had the coleslaw and the waffle fries and the chicken breast sandwich.
Okay.
And you're walking out to the car, and the craft is now descending, just let's say 100 yards from, or let's make it shorter. Let's make it 100 feet from your car.
Yeah.
Are you, and you're holding the kids' hands, are you kind of going towards it, or are you like unlocking the Porsche Panamera and jumping inside?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what I know about UAP guys, don't get too close to them. I don't want some sort of radiation situation. So I think I would probably, stand back a little bit, but I'm a curious person by nature. So my default setting is let's learn more about it. Let's continue to learn more about it. And so, but I think that the world is divided in terms of personalities that like the boxes that you mentioned, and those that want to open every box. I'm going to open every box and see what all the boxes have. And where I struggle with that dichotomy is that kind of people who find themselves in one side or the other, we tend to like look at the other side and be like, well, don't be a box person. And the other side's like, don't be an open box person. But the truth is, like, we actually need both of these personalities. We need the box people and we close box people and open box people. We're going to have to figure this out together. There are benefits to both of those perspectives, particularly if all of a sudden one day we find ourselves on the same team, the human team, and we're coming face to face with a non-human something. I don't know that's an us versus them situation, but it is by kind of staring at this other, we are going to find our reflections coming back at us. Yeah. And we have to be ready for that moment and be ready to kind of listen to each other in a way that I don't think we're doing at all right now. So we need to be better listeners before anything.
Definitely agree, Nathan.
Yeah.
Akashi, you're walking out of Walmart. I ask you to get the gluten-free crust, and I really do appreciate that because it's actually better without the pepperoni on it. Mm-hmm. So thank you for the Freshetta gluten-free crust. And all of a sudden, near your car, there's some saucer-shaped craft that is descending down, and you do what?
I started getting far enough away to not get hit by the radiation because we've done our research and we know that burns. I try to get far enough away that I don't get abducted because I don't necessarily want to go up there, whatever. So, but I would be prepared mentally, but I know so many are not. Yeah. And the fear in their faces when you even bring in the subject, it is immediate denial. Definitely. And that's what concerns me most. We are more, it's that fear. This is my personal opinion, not disclaimer, not the opinion of calling all beings. But I'm just going to speak for myself here. Religion and UFOs are not mutually exclusive to me. God is the creative force of the universe, not the creative force of Earth. But a lot of people will turn it immediately into like an existential crisis, turn to their, back to what Avi was saying. It's like it's going to be a spiritual journey for many. And my friends laugh at me. I crack up because I'm like, you laugh at the hippie. Just wait till something happens. And when you need to know the observables, the type of craft, is it gray? Is it a mantis? In a half joking because I'm trying to introduce topics in a spoon feeding type of way. Yeah. They're not ready to hear it all. We're down ultra dimensional by now. they're still don't even know what gimbal, tic tac, and go fast is.
Exactly.
And you'll be surprised, Josh. You think that it's more mainstream? It's not. I mean, it's still
not.
a very,
I was gonna
we're
tell
a
them that.
small
It's
bowl
not.
here in mainland.
No, of
In
course.
Puerto Rico, so I'm from Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, even though we're part of the United States, it's a little bit of a different. We grew up understanding and believing that we're not alone. So it just kind of, to them, I talk to them every couple of weeks, to my high school friends, and they're like, oh yeah, I see stuff. And they don't have that issue. But
Yeah.
a lot of people that I know just have that fear, and it just concerns me, because it's I'd rather not know. I'd rather take the other pill. Give me the steak. I don't want to know I'm having slop. And that's the part where I think we need to be those Sherpas
100%
that at
agree.
some
Yeah.
point are
I
going
was-
to help people through this.
I
you
was
know?
going to be Anjali Sherpa until I saw my career flash before my eyes, but that's another matter. So,
A guidance Sherpa,
well, I was going
and
to
don't
carry her
forget,
backpack.
yeah.
She's ill. She's
I know.
dealing with some issues. I was going to carry her water, her backpack, power bars, a couple of salmon jerky packages, but and even her headlamp for her.
Hey,
Put
do
it on
we
her
want to
head.
ask
But-
Flair what he would think?
I'm gonna bring
do,
Flair in,
or-
but I didn't get to give my perspective. Jeez.
Oh my goodness,
Look at
I
I'm getting
thought you
shoved
did.
up. Josh,
We've
did
come
you see
full
that?
circle. Yeah.
Assistant
Yeah.
producer. I'm just kidding.
You gave her that power. You got to watch
be-
out.
You're the
I'll be-
boss, man.
No,
You're
I'll
the
be
boss.
quick. I'll be quick.
Yes,
What
so
I
that's
wanted to say to all of you was, we can have ideas about, including myself, about what we think we would do. Then you talk to Max, and I believe Max. And when you look at Max, you figure out he has some acting credits in the UK, by the way, when you go to his IMDb, because he has it listed on there. And he looks like the kind of guy that if you went to a Man U game and you pissed him off, he'd take his beer bottle and bust it over your head. So he looks like, he looks like a UK movie tough guy Ritchie type, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Blurry. What's up, Blurry? Welcome, girlfriend. So what I was going to say to you is that he said that when he was approached the second time, and this thing is 90 feet above his house, and he said, 30 meters roughly. He said he was with his young son, and that's why I asked Nathan that question. And he said, I don't scare easily, and that's back to my thing about he looks like the type of guy who would bust his beer glass over your head.
Yeah.
He said an uncontrollable fear came over me, even though I had already seen he had already had beings come in his house, black
Wow.
anthropomorphic beings floated
Shadow
into
beings,
his
that
house.
sort of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
shadow
then
beings,
floated
yeah.
out, right? And when he described the cylindrical object, he was stricken with a fear that he could not control. So my answer is, even if I think I know what I'm going to do, I have no idea, because
Yeah.
we've
And that's
never
the thing,
experienced.
until
We
you
could
see
be
it.
terrified and go, like see if I can get underneath my car.
And that's the thing, until you see it. I mean, I've spoken to people like on Instagram Lives or like on YouTube or whatever, and like they've said to me, like, you don't understand, like, until you actually see that craft or being or whatever, you can't. It's something what you can't comprehend until you actually see it. So DJ, you're right there. I think it's something which until we actually see it ourselves, we don't really know how we feel at the end of the day. But yeah.
I just learned. I mean, I just had this interaction with him Sunday night, and like he's had 2 or 3. And he's scared to take his son in the woods now. He's like, if I take my son in the woods, in our hiking trails, and I don't have a gaggle of people around me, I feel like he could be vulnerable if something happens. The Anjali thing, Nathan will tell you, I was 100% down to go and go face to face with those beings. But the craft is a whole, I have to take what he said. He saw one, and I have had a sighting, but not like what he had. Not like them right over his home where it was like in his space. Anyway, let's bring on Stephen Greer's Flair, because after this, we got a beat feed, because somebody driving to Coral Springs, Florida tomorrow. We talking about like an 8.5, 9-hour drive, and I haven't packed yet. So
Oh boy.
my wife's packed all the dogs and cats stuff and her stuff, but I still got to pack. So
Nice.
Greer's
is.
Flair, man, look at that man.
What's up, man?
What's up,
Hey,
Steven?
Steve.
What's up? Can you guys hear me?
How you
Yes,
doing,
sir.
Flair?
Yeah,
You sound
well.
good, man.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
you look nearly as good as Josh. Go ahead.
Almost.
Heart bubble emojis. There we go.
Mhm.
Heart will noise.
Yeah. What's up, Josh? Josh.
Hiya, you okay? How you doing?
What's up,
You okay?
Artemis?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good. So I got some questions for you guys.
Oh no.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Very
for it.
ready.
All right, then.
I love Greer's flair.
Are you ready?
All right. So, Josh, if that's what your name is, I find it rather sus that your name begins with a J.
Hmm.
So tell me, Josh, what was it like growing up in Nazareth?
Nazareth, wow. I mean, it was challenging. It was challenging. Not gonna lie, it was challenging. I mean, I do like my rum. I do like my rum, as you can see. So
There we go.
I think it was more of a
that
manger,
was like
wasn't
the
it?
major challenge. That was like the major challenge for me was finding the rum, to be honest, Steve. Yeah.
Hard to come by there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that was a good
Yeah.
answer.
The air conditioning never worked in that manger. Go ahead.
No.
Did you make friends with these sheep?
I did, yeah. I mean, that's how I made all these clothes I'm wearing. That's how I got
Interesting.
all my milk and stuff. So yeah, it was all good.
Carpenter at a young age.
Mhm.
Respect.
Yeah.
Mother as a virgin. That must have been awkward at the parties.
We are in the
That's it.
presence of His holiness.
Anyways, Artemis, I have a question for you. So, what's your favorite meal for breakfast?
Great question.
I love this.
Yep.
I love this.
How do you
Wow.
like your eggs in the morning?
Ooh. So if I'm gonna have some, if I want to dip my eggs, then definitely sunny side up with like bacon and either like home fries or toast with butter, or
Oh.
pancakes. Definitely.
And she makes the best pancakes I've had for sure. So I can
That-
test
Really?
for that, Steve.
Nice.
Test for that,
This
for
is
sure.
this
Yeah.
is amazing, man. No more full English breakfast for Josh, man.
No.
He's going
She
American
cooks
style,
for
some
you?
American
pancakes,
style
Bacon
bacon and
and
pancakes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
North American style. Let me say that.
That's
So,
she's a keeper if she makes pancakes.
Yeah.
I would
for sure.
agree. I would
All
have to
right.
concur. Flair, do you have
Well-
anything else before we throw you out of here?
Yes, I do. I wanted to know what now that we're on the subject of food, what would Josh like say for his last meal?
Mm.
Oof.
Like Last Supper type thing?
No, his last meal, like
Oh,
Last
sorry.
meal.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, I can see those knives in the
Hypothetically,
background. I'm not
mixing
sure if you got like a plan, Steve, but yeah.
Yes.
I said that with a straight face. I'm proud of myself.
Mhm.
I,
I'm very
I would
proud, yeah.
say, I would just say a steak. I'd say steak and chips. Steak and chips.
Steak and eggs.
Steak and chips are classic. Yeah.
Steak
Shit.
and British. Yeah, it
Yeah.
means steak
All
and
right.
fries. Steak and
So
So
fries.
steak and fries. Yeah. Steak and fries. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'll stop torturing your guest.
I love. I want your next
Artemis,
show. I
I'm
want you.
afraid. I'm afraid he's trying to steal Josh. He's already planning his last meal.
Yeah.
You better
Either
watch
that,
out.
or it's going to be sort of a Silence of the Lambs thing, and like Josh is going to be at the bottom of some sort of a pit. Greer's Flair. First of all, I love you. I have heart bubble emojis for you, Josh, and Nathan now. And I would like you to come on next time and come up with incredibly uncomfortable questions again. Okay?
What I do best.
Thank you. We'll see. I'll talk to you. Okay, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you,
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. Yep. Oh, wow. If it's not enough that we have the son of God in our presence, but we have a Greek goddess. We have the Empress of Puerto Rico. I guess the Puerto Rico's answer to Helen of Troy, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle at her right hand, right there, Nathan. I'm really sorry that I'm going to have to end a little bit earlier than I want to, but my wife said You no pack nothing, neither do you clothes. So in her language that we've called Katyanese. So anyway, yeah. So first of all, I just want to tell you guys where the hair thing comes from, because you guys must be wondering how that came up. Are you wondering, Josh? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Because it's beautiful.
My-
Hair
Jer-
was terrifying.
beautiful. Yeah, the talk of hair has been going on in my life for many years, but basically in my job in the Air Force, other flight engineer guys, you basically have two of everything on the airplane except the flight engineer. You're alone. So there's two pilots, there's two navigator types, and two guys in the back that are load masters. So when you show up to debrief, you're all alone. So you have to have a certain kind of a thick skin. So if you screwed up, they're going to tell you, and you're not going to have any backup there to back you up. So it's a very A-personality type, thick skin type group. So I figure, what can I do that can make everybody drop that guard a little bit, smile a little bit, and not have this steel face like all the time. So I started mentioning which one of us had nice hair. Of course, my hair's been falling out since my 30s. Chris, you saw me in the 30s in that one photo I sent you from France. So anyway, so that's how it started, and it just gained popularity, and I wasn't the only one that would mention when someone had great hair. And I figured out this is like a fun thing that everybody can admire when somebody has great hair. So I've just carried it from probably 2002 and 2000 until now. Or no, even 2000 until now. So yeah, that's how long I've been talking about hair with various groups of friends. So, and people love it, right? You saw all these memes and all
Oh
that.
my god, the amount!
It was
Like my cheeks were killing me from laughing.
I mean, yeah,
Incredible.
because the times
Thank you,
zone's,
Flair.
like different here. Like
Love
I'll
you, man.
log into Twitter, I'll have like 40 notifications. It's all about hair.
Right?
it was incredible.
Breaking news, UFO Twitter. Oh, it's just hair stuff.
It's just, but everybody, I don't know what it is, but there's something about it. So I want to take this.
In general, though, oh my god, it's just so
It's
good.
incredible, man. I really want to thank Chris, and for that, just specifically, I'd like to thank Grant. I'd like to thank Flair, and even Alien Gray got in the mix, like at the end. And so thank you, Alien Gray. All of you guys bringing us so much joy and making us laugh. And it takes time to do that. It's not something that just happens in 10 seconds. So I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for taking our joke and carrying it and coming up. When I saw Artemis looking like Beyonce, and then all of a sudden Josh looked like all these different models.
Blonde instead of dark, almost
New
I
looks.
almost changed my mind.
It was amazing. All right, so what I'd like to do now, if you would, is please to promo all of your stuff. And we're very, if you could just look to your right, Josh, and Artemis look to your left, and then you could even blow a kiss and you'll get it. There you go. Come on, Artemis. Yeah, woo! Love is in the air.
Yes.
So, yeah, please talk about all your social media so that more people are already following you. But if we can get a couple more people, that would be awesome. So go ahead, please.
Yeah.
So in terms of us, it's all in our link tree. We've basically got one link tree now, so it's the primetime one. So if you go in there, it's got our combined links, it's got Artemis's links and my links all in one page now, so it's easy to find. In terms of what we've got coming up tomorrow, we've got Philip Mantle, so he's like a UFO researcher from the UK.
Nice. Philip.
Yeah, so he's like an OG when it comes to this topic. So he's done a lot of research. He's actually read wrote a few books. He's been a broadcaster as well, so that's going to be interesting. That's at 5 p.m. UK time. I think that's, what time is that Eastern?
That's noon Eastern.
Noon Eastern, yeah, 5 hours. Yep.
Then on Friday we've got a round table with Benji, who's in the chat. I can see.
Yeah,
we've got
Benji.
We've got Priscilla, who's the Quantum Witch.
Quantum Witch, what's
Instagram.
up? Homegirl.
And Alien Girl as well. So that's going to be on
Alien Girl.
It's every time you say it, he has to do the song. Yeah.
And then next Tuesday,
Very
we've
good on
got,
her.
we've got a UFO China roundtable panel. So we've
Oh,
nice.
we've got
Yeah.
Shuk Fei, who we've interviewed before, but then we've got another researcher from China who's a female as well. So we're going to put that out this week. So
Very exciting.
it's going to be interesting to get that perspective from China again. So yeah,
100.
That's
man.
awesome.
100 Holmes, man. Nathan, anything final for the group?
And I'm just so grateful to have you guys on. Really,
pleasure, guys. Thank you.
really glad for everything that y'all do, the positivity and the engagement with the community. So just keep up the good work and let's spread the word.
For sure. It's in terms of ourselves, we're only a new channel really, so we're just new to all of this stuff. So yeah, it's great, and to meet you guys and just to have this positive community and have a laugh about, it gets too serious at times, so it's good to have a laugh about it too. Yeah.
Agreed.
Associate producer AkashiCris, everybody. Come on, Artemis, Josh. Thank you. What you got, Akashi?
I'm good here. I am so excited that I got to talk to Josh and Artemis. I mean, we only talk in chat, and this is so awesome. So
yeah, to like put like a
Thank you,
face to like
Michael.
the picture on Twitter is nice. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I know we're building something really cool here, so I'm just excited to be part of it. Thank you, DJ and Nathan, for allowing me to sit here and do this.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for being awesome and adding to this space, homegirl. I got to tell you something else. So Nathan and I have been talking about this. We talked about it with Mataluni last time. I have a feeling that maybe even Josh and Artemis would come to something like this, but this coming summer, because we want to give time, we're looking to put together a Southeast USA, and take that in air quotes because Southeast USA is pretty big. I mean, it goes from Nathan all the way to Exo Academian's house, which is like a mile. But anyway, no, all kidding aside, we want to put together something, a hashtag UFO Twitter meetup where we can eat, we can drink, and we can look at the stars.
Definitely.
Questions?
I'm definitely on
Anyone?
board.
Questions?
Where do I
Artemis?
sign?
Anything?
Perfect place
Yeah,
to
I
do
know.
that.
So that's what we want to do, and we're kind of let that seed germinate a little bit. This Sunday, I think we're having James Iandoli engaging the phenomenon.
Wow, nice.
I think.
Nice.
So if we can get him off the squat rack, because right now he's
right.
got like 400 racked up there.
Exactly.
We'll try to get him off the rack. But yeah, so that's what's going down. It was an honor to have you guys and meet two more friends. And the only thing scientifically I didn't get to was leaving the conditioner in your hair, Josh. But we're gonna have to save that for next time we get together, because I'm very concerned about your hair. And I'm sorry.
I mean, in terms of you guys as well, we'd like to have you guys on our show. Of course,
What?
As well. So
Wait,
we'd like to have
hold
you
on.
guys on our show
You-
too. So
You'd like to have us on your show?
of course,
They're making
Nathan!
a horrible mistake, but yeah, we'll do it.
This is a big career screw up. I'm just,
Yeah.
you have Moskowitz. You don't want us.
We're warning you
Come
now,
on.
but
What are
it's
you
your
doing?
show.
You don't want us.
Oh, good.
Come on, think
Thank you
about
guys.
it.
That would be
Amazing. Are
an
you
honor.
kidding?
No,
We'll
we'd
set
love
it
to
up.
be on. Hopefully I'll be more rested and have more alcohol, and I'll wild out even more.
Same with
Right.
Josh.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what, 3:30?
Yeah, well, it's like 3:30 in the morning here, so yeah. So I'll be in a different time zone next time as well. I'll be a lot more fresh. So
There you go.
Be close, man. You
Yeah,
did
thank you
good,
so much
man.
for joining
you did
us,
good,
man.
brother.
No, you're welcome.
rocked it.
You're welcome.
For Josh, for Artemis, for Money Nate, and for AkashiCris. This is DJ. This is DJ saying peace out. One love. And we'll see you down the road.